Akari.
Hey! What the heck?
Akari.
Oh, the title call. This video is...
Warner Brothers is for commentary purposes. Please understand and thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the second episode of the Halloween Special Reviews. My name is Katomi Ichinose, and in this episode we'll be reviewing episode 24 of the Batman 2004 Grundy's Night. So let's...
get this party started! Spoiler alert!
On Halloween, two children in costumes approach a spooky house on a hill, and the door opens to reveal two identical-looking old women who call each other Virginia and Georgia. The two creepy old women tell the trick-or-treaters that tonight is not only Halloween but Grundy's night. They tell the story of Solomon Grundy, who rose from the Gotham swamps 150 years ago. Tonight, on the lunar eclipse, Grundy will rise again and kill the descendants of his previous victim. The children, obviously scared, ask about how the old hags knew so much about Grundy, and they respond saying that they are descendants of one of Grundy's victims, Emmett Bolton. The children, realizing that Solomon Grundy is going to hunt these women down soon, flee from this house, and the two women laugh hysterically. So, Georgia and Virginia return inside the house and toast their grandfather for leaving them so much money. But suddenly a long groan is heard and they drop their cups, and the wall next to them collapses, and the resurrected Solomon Grundy approaches near them slowly, with an urge to destroy. At Wayne Manor, Alfred Pennyworth, dressed as Sherlock Holmes, answers the doorbell, and he's greeted by an adult dressed as Solomon Grundy, who scares the poor butler. The parent apologizes, saying that it's Grundy's night. And Pennyworth, who was very pissed at the man, slams the door in his face. How rude is that? And higher in Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne is carving his own pumpkin. And Wayne is interested in the children's costumes and asks the butler. And Alfred says it was only the supervillains again. Wayne laughs, saying how kids like to be the bad guys on Halloween. And all of a sudden, the Batcomputer sends an alarm and Batman suits up. So at Georgia and Virginia's house, their home is in rubble. And the picture of their grandfather is in pieces, and their safe is raided. The two women are uninjured, however. Batman arrives and the two old ladies cower in fear. Batman says that he is here to help, and the two women explain that Grundy is back, just the legend says. And Wayne asks who else is scheduled to get a visit from Solomon Grundy. But another mansion noticed that a man was being pursued by a zombie. And Batman arrives and tells the man to run away. And Batman and Grundy begin to fight, but the zombie is too strong. Grundy beats Batman unconscious to the floor and knocks down the building on his way out. And the hero is trapped under the rubble. Wayne awakens to find three children staring at him, and one of the kids is dressed as none other than Batman. And Wayne pulls himself out of the rubble, compliments the boy's costume, and walks away before the police arrive. The mansion owner, meanwhile, is sobbing about his broken safe. In Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne accidentally startles Alfred, who is reading about Solomon Grundy. And Wayne is hurt from the attack and limps to his butler. Alfred says he was reading about Grundy and he might find a way to beat the villain by doing a little research. Alfred begins to read the legend of Solomon Grundy. Long ago, 3 businessmen in Gotham City created a swamp in Gotham by illegally dumping chemical waste from construction in the city. Several farmers lost their homes, and they cursed the 3 businessmen and used rituals to summon Grundy from the man-made swamp. And the curse that Grundy would destroy the homes of the businessmen and their descendants, just like the businessmen destroyed the farmers' homes with the creation of the swamp. So in the present day, Alfred closes the book to find that Wayne went back into the Batcave. So Wayne is taking a sample from his cape and analyzing to see if the man who attacked him at the mansion was really Solomon Grundy. Batman tells Alfred to call him when the results are in, and he runs off to go find Grundy before he disappears for another 150 years. Above the Gotham Wax Museum, Batman notices Solomon Grundy walking through the streets hunting for the 3rd businessman's descendant. When Batman lands near Grundy's location, he has somehow disappeared. The hero gets a call from Alfred saying that the mud contained mutated human DNA. During their conversation, Batman is approached from behind by Grundy. So they begin to fight once more until Batman tells Grundy to take off the mask. And the hero rips off at the zombie's face and pulls off a glob of goo. And just as Batman predicted, Grundy isn't real. It was none other than Clayface. It was a huge shock. Batman says that the main reason he knew that Clayface wasn't the real Grundy is because the zombie, according to the legend, only wanted to destroy houses, not rob the victim's safes as well. The Clay explanation only proved his theory, and Clayface just runs away into the nearby Wax Museum. So Batman decides to go inside the same museum, and he realizes Clayface's stacked odds. He ambushes Batman in the Wax Museum and then runs off. So Batman decides to pursue the villain. So deeper in the Wax Museum, Batman and Clayface continue the fight. Batman finally wins, however, by spilling hot wax on the villain, and Clayface is frozen in place by the hardened wax. And back at the Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne is eating the leftover candy while Alfred cleans up. And Wayne says that the Grundy curse has finally been lifted, and Alfred says that there might be a Solomon Grundy zombie out there, because the villain just did his job tonight. In the swamp, the 2 children from the beginning of the episode were throwing rocks in the water, waiting for Grundy. So it's late, so they decide to pack up and leave, and on their way back there's water bubbles and deep moaning is heard, and Solomon Grundy was officially real.
There's also Batman vs. Dracula. It's the 2nd Halloween special from Batman. Let's take a look at that. Because at the Arkham Asylum, during a bingo game, the Penguin is told by another prisoner that a large amount of money is held at the Gotham Cemetery, in a crypt behind a tombstone with a cross. After the prisoner mentions he told Joker, an alarm sounds off and a guard yells that the Joker has escaped, and Penguin uses an opportunity created by the confusion to break out as well. And Penguin decides to meet up with Joker on the way to the graveyard, and they strike a deal. And Joker loses no time in double-crossing Penguin and knocking him out with an electrified joy buzzer. Well, Penguin watches off, and he sees Batman following Joker, and he smirks. So Penguin eventually reaches the graveyard, but it turns out that many of the tombstones have crosses. Meanwhile, Batman and Joker fight, ending in Joker's apparent death falling in water and being electrocuted by his own joy buzzers because water conducts electricity. And so, while they reach the graveyard, Penguin finds a crypt and cuts loose a suspended coffin. In the process, he cuts his hand on the blade of the umbrella and his blood drips onto the corpse's heart inside. So Penguin decides to leave the crypt, and the corpse reanimates and gains new flesh and organs. Penguin hears the corpse and sees Dracula rise, so he runs away. But Dracula follows the scent of and trail of blood from Penguin's cut, and Dracula finds the night watchman and drains his blood. Penguin is surprised when he sees the watchman become a vampire, protesting that a dead man can't do that, and Dracula then realizes that he is in fact not dead. So Dracula hypnotizes Penguin into becoming a servant to show him that Gotham so he can speak. Dracula notices that Transylvania has changed, and is informed by Penguin that he is actually in Gotham City, and Dracula states to conclusion that he has been moved since his death. So in his flashback, a mob of mean and angry people, led by a well-dressed and seemingly very educated man, march upon the castle of Dracula. So the leader drives the stake through Dracula's heart in order to finally destroy him, and the leader knows that he has merely incapacitated the vampire, paralyzing him in a death-like state. And he arranged a vampire's body to be transferred out of Transylvania, buried in America on land that he would eventually become Gotham City. And Bruce has an interview with Vicky Bale at a restaurant, and on his return to Wayne Manor, he tells Alfred that he has invited her to the corporate dinner and a dinner on Saturday. As Batman patrols the city, a woman is robbed, and when the crook is stopped before Batman can arrive, he decides he's not needed. However, upon hearing the woman scream once more, he sees that the night watchman is a vampire. The crook and the woman have also become vampires, and Batman fights them but is unable to defeat them, and he forces them to retreat. Penguin then wakes up Dracula, who now looks more human, having fed on some people, with plans to turn Gotham City into a city of vampires, with him as their king, but who shall be his queen? And Batman does not believe what he has seen, but he knows something was going wrong. At the party, Bruce meets Dracula under the name of Dr. Alucard, and Dracula takes an interest in Vicky Bale and says he's studying Batman. So a waiter comes by with a tray of beef steak tartare, which Dracula marvels at before eating, much to Vicky's disgust. When a waitress comes by with a tray of garlic shrimp, Dracula is noticeably disturbed. And Bruce notices and offers him some, saying it tastes great and really packs a punch, but Dracula hypnotizes him and just leaves. A moment later, the hypnotized Bruce leaves Vicky and wanders over to the balcony, where Dracula is waiting to bite him. However, just as before Dracula was about to bite his victim, Alfred arrives, prompting Dracula to disappear and Bruce to snap out of the trance. And Dracula, meanwhile, feeds on one of the waiters, and Alfred discovers the waiter is a vampire and narrowly avoids being tapped. Bruce, meanwhile, declares Alucard's true identity, Dracula. After an extensive research with Alfred in the Batcave, Batman begins to realize that many of Dracula's legends were actually true events, and also realizing that Gotham citizens' disappearances are because of Dracula. He and Alfred realize the vampires' number will grow exponentially in an army in a matter of weeks. Rather than killing the vampires, Bruce decides to find a way to revert Dracula's victims to normal, since vampirism seems to be transmitted as a disease despite its roots in the supernatural. And normally there's a chance to treat it. Bruce and Alfred head toward the manor's library for its collection of medical textbooks and research belonging to Bruce's father himself, Dr. Thomas Wayne. However, in Dracula's lair below the graveyard, Dracula watches a freeze frame of Vicky and says to herself, even her name possesses a mysterious allure, Veil. I think it's time we seek my bride. So the next morning, it is falsely reported that Batman is causing people to disappear in his attack that night on patrol. And Batman traces the city's number of disappearances, and he first discovers that the first attack occurred on Gotham Cemetery, where a watchman has disappeared. After realizing that vampirism is plaguing the city, Alfred not only arms the mansion with relics and herbs to ward off the creatures, but also Batman's own arsenal as well. So when night arrives, while investigating at the cemetery, the Gotham PD SWAT unit members are also at the scene. So as he escapes, the police members are taken by Dracula and transformed into vampires. Batman encounters Dracula on a rooftop, and Dracula admittedly admired the Dark Knight, commenting that his legend had been influential, offered him a chance of heightened senses, speed, strength, and immortality. Batman then understands that this would really mean to him, and he refuses. So he tries to fight, but is unable to defeat him and is severely injured.
Unfortunately, Dracula retreats when the sun rises, but not before Dracula promises to Batman that maggots will feed upon his flesh because of the rejection. Bruce wakes up later on his bed after having a nightmare in which he sees his parents killed after they were watching the movie The Cloaked Rider and sees that Batman is a vampire. So, the young billionaire wakes up fearing of his own persona as Batman and Dracula's evil, which is very sad.
Joker shows up at the graveyard after a fisherman took him to a boat and demands a share from the Penguin. He chases Penguin into the crypt where he opens Dracula's coffin and is attacked. Later, in a blood bank, a nurse is attacked and Batman finds Joker feasting on the blood from the numerous vials on the shelves. And he humorously comments that the blood has a delicious flavor of a bold finish of wild cherries with a hint of oak. The two fight it until they knock over the shelves, with the Joker distracted from drinking blood raining down from a collapsed set of shelves. Batman hits him with garlic bombs. And, to be honest, Batman takes him inside the Batcave and gets to work on curing vampires, which a computer defines that it is as a form of virus infecting the host's cellular structure. Also obtaining the whereabouts of the Prince of Darkness from the Crown Prince of Crime. Despite his hatred toward the vampire lord, the Joker is unable to reveal his location because the vampire has taken control of his will. The Joker is now his vessel because of what happened to Gotham Cemetery. This means Joker is going back to Arkham Asylum. Unfortunately, as the Dark Knight works toward discovering the cure and locating Dracula and his victims, he stands up Vicky, who is at a train station where she meets Dracula. Bruce tries to call her, but she gets no answer. He finishes work in the cure of a vaccine, using it to cure Joker. He had lost his memory of what happened to the crypt. However, using what the Joker remembered prior to being bitten, Batman is able to deduce Dracula's location. And Batman then proceeds to mass-produce the vaccine and plan his attack. And inside the crypt, Dracula takes the ashes of his former bride, Carmilla, who was killed when exposed to the sun when she was also a vampire, and places them on a slab suspended above Vicky, who was in a coffin and under a spell. He begins to use her soul to resurrect her, implying that she is one of the only vampires that feeds on souls as well as blood. The Batman enters the crypt at Gotham Cemetery and discovers a catacomb underneath it, which explains how Dracula was able to bypass the Christian relics above it. During the Dark Knight's attack, Batman cures all vampires with the vaccine. Batman is able to fire a projectile carrying the last vial of the vaccine to the Vampire Lord, where Dracula hypnotizes the Dark Knight and makes him unable to fire and destroy him. After hearing Dracula mockingly laugh at him, and remembering the childhood tragedy that inspired him to become Batman, the Dark Knight willfully breaks free of the Vampire Lord's control. He then attacks Carmilla, restores Vicky's soul, rescues Vicky, and fights with Dracula. Batman learns that the caves lead to the Batcave, and use explosives to delay Dracula and enter the Batcave. He is beaten, however, and Dracula plans to kill him rather than turn him into a vampire, proclaiming, in relation to the Batcave, "Impressive dwelling, it shall be your tomb." Alfred stabs the vial of the vaccine into Dracula, but it does not work. As Dracula is the original evil incarnate, Batman then activates a device from Wayne Industries that can store and emit sunlight as well as turn it into energy. Dracula then realizes that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and Batman uses a grapple hook to fly away from the sunlight, which then sets Dracula on fire, and Batman finishes him off with a punch, leaving only a skull with fangs, and Alfred proceeds to sweep the remains into the dustbin. But in the meantime, Penguin goes after Vicky and chases her through the cemetery, and after finding her in a crypt, he is just about to catch her when he is freed from his hypnosis and finally discovers the treasure that caused all the trouble in the first place. He is overjoyed, but police were able to catch on to him.
News reporters state that the people were under Penguin's control, and Penguin keeps saying they were vampires as he was taken away. Vicky sees Batman, who arrives to check on the victims, and he smiles, knowing that he saved the city, and Batman swings proudly throughout the sky, knowing that he had defeated ultimate evil, and he resumes his patrol, ready to defend Gotham against any others that might threaten its safety.
Did you know that?
There was going to be another movie called Batman vs. Hush, but it featured Hush as the main antagonists, including Clayface, Mr. Freeze, Riddler, and Catwoman. However, the DTV project was cancelled. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill tweeted a message saying that they would love to make a Batman Hush animated film, and in 2019, a movie based on Batman vs. Hush was made 15 years later, and the cops suffer Ned Flanders syndrome, or Flanderization, and this film is quite similar to Batman Mask of Phantasm, where someone blamed Batman for all the trouble in Gotham City. The cops are incompetent. They attempt to outright kill Batman, who wasn't murdering anybody, just for pinning him for the abduction of the lost ones, completely ignoring Penguin is still on the loose and could have easily had someone dress up as Batman. And also, this film takes place after they just switched to blaming Penguin, since he was with the cured lost ones. Even when Vicky can back up Penguin's claim of vampirism. And A Fistful of Hell, which is aired a week before the film was released.
Now you know!
Overall, this review is most likely perfect for Dark Knight fans and people who have been looking up to Batman for such a long time.
Shall we give the Batman vs. Dracula 5 out of 5?
Thank you for watching. What do you think? If you appreciate the content, please be sure to super smash that like button and be sure to subscribe to our channel. And please be sure to follow us on Instagram or my DeviantArt. And don't forget to leave a comment, because we really accept kind thoughts. But we here do not allow any trolls or hurtful words or any other terrible meanings necessary allowed. Otherwise, Red Hoeing from Comedy Central's The Red and Stimpy Show will haunt you down until the end of Earth. Keep that in mind. Be sure to subscribe to our channels and click the notification bell. You're never going to miss a video the second it goes live on YouTube and Google. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Have a nice day!